it out the back and just shot it in the teeth, to be honest. Nick, the owner, founder, and CEO of 3CX, is a bit superstitious. We didn't have a version 13 because in most cultures that is considered to be unlucky. Version 17 was also skipped due to the anagram of Vixi, which in Latin means death. And version 19 in Japan is considered to be unlucky as well. At the end of the day, it is just a version number, so we can afford to skip version numbers. So it's not really important for us for that. Will version 20 be able to run on Raspberry Pi? No, we haven't had a Raspberry Pi installation of 3CX as a PBX since version 18 update 2. We have deprecated that. Now with Pi 5 out, if it's able to support Debian 12, I don't know if we will be bringing the support for that back. That's something that R&D will need to decide. Why not 4CX? Well, the name is 3CX. Communicate, collaborate, the 3 Cs. Okay, so do make sure that you do follow the minimum hardware specs. If you don't have the proper hardware specs, it will fail the update. So please make sure that you do have the relevant specifications beforehand. 3CX version 20 has been supported on tested on supported cloud providers only. Namely, that is Google Cloud, Amazon AWS, Amazon Lightsail, Microsoft Azure, DigitalOcean, and Vultr. I think those are all of them at the top of my head. The SBC, yes, still there on Raspberry Pi, still available. Yeah, that's nothing's changed as far as the SBC is concerned. That is still there. Okay, we are talking about the Raspberry Pi with the PBX. Okay, the PBX will not be able to be installed on a Raspberry Pi. If that support is going to be coming back, it is up to R&D to decide for that. Right, so another thing that will block the upgrading from version 18 to version 20 is the modification of the Linux repositories. Please refrain from putting any other software on the system. If you do modify the repositories, that will cause the upgrade to fail. So please keep it nice and vanilla, keep it nice and clean. Right, so let's move on to the networking aspect, one of my favorite topics. I'm a network engineer by trade. Haven't practiced it in quite a few years due to my trainer role here at 3CX, but it's always a bit of a soft point for me. Now, last year we started to mention that split DNS will be a requirement in version 20. This only applies if you are using an on-premises system where your PBX and your telephones and your devices, your applications are on the same network. Not if you are connecting from outside the office, and not if you are using a hosted by 3CX or third-party hosting service. Okay. The split DNS configuration, I do have a diagram in the next slide coming up, only applies if you are using the 3CX applications which do require a secure connection now. Okay, and you are running an on-premises system. If you are using hosted by 3CX or any other hosting provider, these next two slides are just an FYI for you. Now, split DNS means that we resolve the FQDN of the PBX when you're outside the office to the external IP address of the network. And when you come into the network, you resolve the FQDN, the same FQDN of the PBX, to the internal NIC interface IP address of the server directly without having to go outside the network and come back in. Okay. You will need to have an internal DNS server to do this. If you don't have the capabilities of an internal DNS server, might not have the capital expenditure for that, might not have the infrastructure, you just need a firewall that can do hairpin NAT. We're going to explain that in the next slide coming up. On some smaller installations that don't have this infrastructure, it might be easier to migrate them to a hosted instance or even to an SMB for the much smaller clients. So they have the functionality that they need without all the complexities. The updates are generally for the updates within a version, not moving between the various versions. Yes, the local host can also be used if that's the case. But sometimes if you've got quite a lot of clients, that can be quite tedious. And if you need to do a renumbering of the PBX, that could be, you would have to renumber everything. Also, if you're using the split DNS to have SecureSIP configured on the phones internally, the phones don't have a host file, so they will need to have an internal DNS server. Although the phones can still be configured with the local interface, if you want to do a secure provisioning, you will need to have the FQDN being resolved. Okay, so the local host is a bit of a, the host file is a bit of a stopgap. Right, so very simple configuration that we have here. We have our network 192.168.0.x. The firewall is .1, the first IP address of the network. The internal DNS server is .10 and the PBX is .20. The internal DNS server has a DNS zone, pbx.3cx.com as an example. That resolves to 192.168.0.20. Externally, the IP address of the firewall is 100.150.200.250. Connected to the internet, we have our external DNS server. This could be a Google DNS, could be Microsoft's DNS, whatever. And pbx.3cx.com on that resolves to 100.150.200.250. We have a 3CX application connected from outside the network through a 5G network. What happens? Yes, the laptops can work from outside the network. Whether it's a 3CX application on a mobile device or a laptop, yeah, it'll just resolve its FQDN. So what happens if our 3CX application or our laptop even, okay, any one of these devices can go, the first thing that they're going to do before they connect is make a DNS request. So they're going to go to their relevant DNS server. That will eventually come to our DNS server, making a request for pbx.3cx.com. That will respond back with the IP address of the external interface. 100, 150, 200, 250. Okay, that's just a random IP address that I've selected. After that, the application will go through the internet, will come to the firewall. The firewall will do the necessary port forwarding, will come through the network, go and connect. Okay, so that is what happens when a device, mobile phone device, connects from anywhere in the world, anything outside the office. But what happens when we have our application coming into the network onto the Wi-Fi? It will come into the network. It will do a, it will get its IP address through DHCP. It will get its DNS server entry as well. So now it knows that whenever it needs to do a DNS request, it will come to the internal DNS server. It will come and do a DNS request for the same FQDN, pbx.3cx.com. That will then respond with the IP address of 192.168.0.20. Now it will go through the access point, it will go through the network and come through to the PBX and connect. I'm specifically not answering the question for APIs because it will be covered later on. Okay, if I do ignore a question, it is on purpose. Okay, so please wait, please be patient. When you are asking questions, please keep the questions relevant to the topic that we are covering on the screen. It makes it a lot simpler for everyone because it doesn't distract from the webinar and it doesn't distract me as well. Okay, so please be patient. If there is anything that we haven't covered and you need to ask at the end, please ask the questions at the end, but we won't be doing feature requests. So what happens if you don't have an internal DNS server? Okay, that's not a problem. As long as your firewall can handle hairpin NAT, you don't have an internal DNS server, your internal 3CX application will go to the external DNS server and it will do a DNS request for pbx.3cx.com. That will respond with IP address 100, 150, 200.250. Not much space there. Okay, so now through the routing, through the network, it will go again through the access point. It will try to go out and find the IP address because it's not in the network. So it will go out. Now the firewall will see that it is its external interface. By default, a firewall will generally block this type of traffic. But if you do configure hairpin NAT, that will loop back into the network. Okay. Basically, hairpin NAT is basically the shape of a hairpin. We'll come back into the network and go back to the PBX and connect. This does put a bit of a load onto the firewall, so it is recommended just to use the internal DNS server in this case. Another prerequisite of the upgrading is the assignment of department hours. Now, with version 18, we did have the global office hours, and we also had the group hours as well. Okay, we could define hours to the groups. Now, with version 20, we have renamed them to departments. So the global office hours will be deprecated, and those will be copied to the departments. Okay. If you want to have a different timing for your departments, for your groups, you will be able to do that before you migrate to version 20, but you can also do it after you migrate as well. That's not a problem. If you don't do it beforehand, if you don't have any office hours on your departments, they will be copied from the global office hours. What is defined on those will be copied to the ones that don't already have timings. Okay, so it's not a showstopper per se. Okay. Now, the upgrading from version 18 to version 20, if you are on update 9, you go to the updates page, you will see that there is an operating system upgrade available and also version 20. Now, with version 18, we are using Debian 10. We did get asked quite a lot if we will ever go to Debian 11. We did hold out because we were planning with the adoption of version 20 to go straight to Debian 12, which was released just last year. So Debian 11 will only be a short stint on 3CX because to go from Debian 10 to Debian 12, we do have to go through Debian 11. So that will just be momentarily. Once you do trigger the upgrade, it will log you out. It will do the upgrade to Debian 11. Once that is complete, it will trigger the second upgrade to Debian 12 transparently. You will not see this in the background, okay? Debian 12 allows us to use the latest security features of the latest Debian operating system. We are also able to use the latest reciprocate engine, which is the SIP engine that we use here at 3CX, as well as Nginx, which is the web server that we use. Now, generally, this would take about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the server, but there have been cases of extreme cases where it has taken up to an hour. Now, this upgrade, since we are doing 2 operating system upgrades, does require patience. You'll basically be able to go on your social media, go for a smoko, go for a lunch break, whatever. By the time you come back, it will be upgraded. Okay, so it does take a bit of patience for this one. This is the last thing that you will be doing in the management console. After you do that, bid it farewell. We're putting it to sleep. It served us good for the past 10 years approximately. Web Management Console was from 24. Yeah, so it's been 10 years. Yes, the groups are replaced by departments. We've just renamed them essentially to reflect more what they are. Is Windows Server still supported? Yes, we currently don't have the Windows version ready yet, so that will be coming shortly after the Linux edition. But yes, Windows Server will still be supported. When the department hours are automatically configured, do we still need to assign these to a trunk if using multiple trunks? The outbound rules don't change. So if you're using your outbound rules for that, we're going to talk about the assignment of the SIP trunks and the various system extensions to the departments. So if you want to limit a SIP trunk to a department, you can do so. We'll be talking about that a bit further down. What was the reason to remove the management console? Well, The management console was written on a bit of older web technology, older programming language, and it was running in tandem with the web client, which was written on newer, more modern, more secure technology. So essentially, we were running two websites on the server. Okay, so to put it into that lingo, there was two web services running. Okay, which was unnecessary, putting extra load on the PBX. Okay, so we decided to remove it and make it a lot easier, a bit more streamlined with the configuration as well. Are the dial codes for in and out of office hours working in a department? No. The dial code for the emergency code has been deprecated in version 20. That is now configured per department through the web client, because the dial codes are global settings, not per department. Okay, we use the groups as sites, different office in each city when we do size in the departments, or some office having PR sales layers as such. Yes, that's basically what the departments are for. We're going to see the timing of the departments as well at some bit further down. So we do have for the capabilities of different time zones, different languages, different holidays, office hours, and so on. Office hours is clean when migrating currently. Yes, that is going to be resolved in RC3. So with the final release, that will be resolved. It basically does cover that. Basically, the ring group studios, I guess, to allow anyway, ignore office hours. Can't you make that option? We'll set to it. No, listen, the default will be to accept everything because they are new settings essentially. So basically all we're going to be talking about those, the system extensions further down as well. Okay. Right, so at this point, bid farewell to the management console. We're putting it to bed, taking it out the back and shooting it in the teeth. Okay, so we have migrated, so there's no separate login now. Essentially, when you have your users logging into the application, they are using the web client. If a person is given the necessary privileges or rights to go and configure the PBX, all they see is an admin button on the bottom left, and they can go and configure the PBX. Really simple, no need to go to a separate tab, no need to go to a separate login, okay? So everything is linked to the user now. We are dropping the /web client on the URL. If you do go into the URL with /web client, because a lot of people have bookmarks, it will just revert back to the default FQDN of the PBX, which previously was the management console. This does reduce the reliance on the welcome email, because the welcome email previously had a lot of static information. It had the username and password for the user. When you create a user now, they just get a link to go and define their password. They create their password. And with the forgot password, it is the same thing. They just go click on the one-time link, reset their password, off they go. We previously had the QR code as well. Information that was readily available there, and also the provisioning file for the older 3CX application. That was basically essentially an XML file in clear text. We are moving away from that for security reasons. So the welcome email just contains the link to go into your application through that resetting of the password. You can utilize single sign-on to basically see, to connect with your Microsoft or Google account. Okay, so that is still there. And we are going to be making improvements you're going to see further down as well. That is very off topic. Teams is not something that we are focusing on to give features as all the features that you need. Listen, if you want to have a dialer, we've got the 3CX dialer. The Teams integration will be changing as well. We don't have information about it just yet, but there will be information coming on that. So an integrated dial, giving more functionality to the competition is a bit, yes, because it is Microsoft, we do integrate with them, but essentially it is the competition. Right, so version 20 is not just a new interface. we have rewritten everything from the ground up. Okay, so we started when 3CX was first around about 15 towards 20 years ago. We've been around for almost 20 years now. It was a Windows only platform and only focusing on premises. There was no cloud, just someone else's computer at the end of the day. It was on premises, it was Windows. And then when the Linux edition came around, then when the cloud came around, we started building up upon that existing infrastructure. Now we have rewritten everything with all the modern trends taken into consideration as well. We have optimized a lot of things. We've made it a lot more performant. Okay, so everything is a lot more snappy now in version 20. And we will be able to handle much larger installations as well. We don't have a definitive number yet, but the ballpark is, for example, having up to 50% more users on the system with the same specs. So we do have a lot of performance upgrades. Now, with the new SIP engine as well, it's giving us a lot more flexibility to be able to do certain features that we were not able to do, that we were restricted from doing with the previous SIP engine. Let's move on to the department setup. Now, the groups have evolved into the departments, and you started to see this in version 18 when we released the startup offering of 3CX, which we later renamed to 3CX SMB and 3CX Free. So you are able to add office hours to these departments. Consider your PBX, for example, is based in Sydney, Australia, okay? So you've got the time zone for Sydney, Australia, but you've also got people that are based in Perth or New Zealand or Hong Kong or even in Europe, in the States. So you've got offices all around the world. Now, traditionally with the global office hours, you would have the one time zone of the system. But then you'd have the users when they are creating their office hours, they would have to think, okay, what time is it in Sydney? I have to do my office hours to reflect that. It gets very tedious. Okay, so with the departments, you can put people into those various departments. You can define specific office hours with a time zone. They can have their own holidays. So for example, you're in New South Wales. New South Wales has its own public holidays. Western Australia has its public holidays. The American team uses their public holidays, the 4th of July, whatever, and so on. Okay, so each department is now its own little entity. And if you think about it, an SMB installation is essentially a department within a bigger PBX in the background as a shared instance. And consequently, you can also add the language settings as well. Unfortunately, no, there is no import and there is no custom holiday prompt for the office for the holiday prompts. Although you can set one if you are in a queue or a ring group. We'll see where you can set it if you need to as well. So a change in the mentality. Previously, we had the global office hours. We also had office hours in the inbound rules, and we also had office hours at the SIP trunk. Okay. Now we're getting rid of the office hours at the SIP trunk level and at the inbound rule level, and we're adding it to the destination. Where is the call going to? So you can route the call directly through to a department, to an entity within a department. That could be a queue, a ring group, a digital receptionist, a user, and so on. So a SIP trunk can be system-wide, or it can be limited for use in a department as well. So if you don't want any other departments using your SIP trunk, no problem. Just define it as owned by that particular department. A ring group, a queue, a digital receptionist, or a CFD can have a DID assigned directly to them as well. And they will be able to inherit the office hours of the department. So they do have office hours as well now. A user can have different custom schedules as well. For example, today I came into the office at 6 o'clock in the morning. Bleak day outside, really dreary day outside, a bit cold as well. So I'm usually 9:30 to 6 o'clock, but to do the webinar today, this early in the morning, I had to come at 6. So I've adjusted my schedule on my PBX, on my extension to reflect those hours. 2:30, I'm out of here. And that basically will show everyone that Nicholas has gone home for the day. How many departments can you have? Many as you like. As many as your departments are in the business, how many do you need? There is no limit to that. For example, with the SMB, we have seen even up to 500 SMB, so 500 departments easily without any hassle. Centralized holiday that can be applied to multiple departments. You have to manually put each one currently. It has been brought up quite a few times to be able to import, to have a template. Nothing has been configured as yet for that. Before departments are configured, will all existing entities be placed in a default department? Yes, if you are using, listen, the default group, if you don't want to use the departments, if you've got the default extension group, that will become the default department. You can just keep using that. That's not an issue. But if you do have your configuration of multiple departments, everything from the global holidays will be transferred over to those. So you can just go and reconfigure those if you need to. So you will have settings in version 20. Okay, so they will be copied from the global. SIP-trunk get a default route if the DID is not listed at all. Yes, they do. I think the default SIP-trunk destination, I'm not sure, but I think at some point for my one it was end call and I had to assign a DID for that. SIP engine permit an extension that's a part of Ring Group to answer multiple calls? No. Ring Group functionality still remains as it was. When you're on the phone, it will move on to the next person in the list. Can the same extension be in multiple departments? Yes, it can. We're going to see that very, very shortly, probably the next slide straight after this one. Can't remember the exact order of these. So department office hours 9 to 5 automatically becomes the default office hours for any system extension or user that is associated to that department. Each system extension can route the calls according to these times. We'll see that further down. But a user comes early, they can customize their hours and ignore the department office hours and use their own custom office schedule. So previously, we had the 7 system roles that were the system owner, the system admin, the group owner, the group admin, manager, receptionist, and user. Okay. The only thing that has been changed here is the naming of the department administrator from group administrator to department administrator. And you will now be able to assign your system extensions into the department as well. I do have a demonstration ready for you to go once we do the demo very, very shortly. Aha. If a user is in 2 departments with conflicting hours, what will happen? When you go and create the user, there is a little drop-down box if they're assigned to multiple departments that you define which of the 2 departments or 3 departments or 5 departments they follow office hours for. So you do get to select to assign them to a particular department for office hours. So that will be their main department. Is there a table which shows all the privileges? Yes, it does. Yes, there is. Very quickly, 3CX user roles. Google is your friend, is our friend as well. Ask me 3. Why? Google, don't be annoying. Essentially, let me Google that for you. Yeah. All righty. All right, so let's go and have a look and see some of the other features as well. We have added the routing capabilities into the call handling, namely for the ring groups, the queues, and the digital receptionists. A queue in a ring group, for example, only had a destination if no answer. So what would happen if the call is not answered by an agent in the queue or a member of a ring group? It would be defined through that. That functionality hasn't changed, still there. But previously, we would do the routing based on the office hours globally or through the inbound rule. That's no longer the case. Since we now have the departments, we can define the office hours for the department, and the system extension will go and inherit these. So how do we want the call to be routed when the office is closed? Well, I want it to go to the voicemail box of my ring group, okay, to the accounts team. Every member of that ring group will receive an email with the voicemail attached. Really simple. Okay. During office hours, the call will be accepted. And if you think about it, when you had your inbound rules timing, you only had in office hours and outside office hours. Okay. You basically didn't have the break times that were only applied to the extensions. So a lot of people were using dummy extensions to do the routing. They are no longer needed. When you are on break time, how do you want the call to be processed? So now we have a processing for break times as well. In this example, I've opted to accept the call anyway, because it might be a customer service team that doesn't go completely on break. They go on staggered breaks. So we can accept anyway. And holiday routings as well. So when it's on holiday, this particular queue will go to end call, or the ring group. It will go to end call. But before we finish the call, we will play a specific announcement, which we select, or we can record. No, you don't need to rebuild call flows with CFD. You can just migrate them over. They will be migrated over without any hassle at all. So if you've got complex flows, a lot of people were using the call flow designer for very simple routings as well. For times, just like something to simulate what we're doing here. So a lot of other people were doing just basically say, okay, I've got a call coming in. I just need to go verify that caller ID with whatever database and move on. So a lot of the cases of a simple CFD are not needed anymore. But if you do have a complex flow, yes, that will get migrated over. When in holiday mode, can you route to leave a voicemail? Yes, I've just opted to end the call. You can see that it is a drop down and you do have all the various destinations available. I just opted for end the call and play a message. The CFD is a 3CX product. It's not third party. It is a 3CX product. It is just basically creating a complex call flow. It can do wizardry when you trigger the call flow designer. So for example, it can check databases, it can make web requests, it can do a lot of things. You can integrate with building automations, does a lot of things. Holiday is no longer global. It is for each department. Okay, so each department will have its own. If you do have your global holidays now, they will be copied over to your various departments. Right, so another queue functionality that has been added is the ability to target busy users within a PBX. Now, there is a bit of confusion with this functionality, okay? So if you're on a telephone call with a customer in the queue, you will not be polled for a second call coming in. It will move on to the next person in the list. However, if you are using the 3CX application, you will be able to see the calls coming in. You'll see the panel. You'll see if a call is waiting in the queue. However, if I decide, for example, that I need to make a telephone call to Sebastian, okay, and Sebastian has accept multiple calls on his extension, and we have enabled in the queue the ability to target busy members, okay, he will hear a call coming into the queue because he's talking to me on an internal call. If he calls to order a pizza, okay, that will basically notify him that you have an incoming queue call coming in. But if you are on a queue call for itself, you are focused on that. I'm not going to send the call by email. You'll be able to see it on YouTube in a few days. Both the desk phone and the soft phone. But so if you are already on a telephone call for anything other than the queue, you will be notified that, listen, your queue is starting to get busy. Get off the phone, start answering the queue calls. But if you are on the call for a queue call, you're focused on that customer. Now, we are giving a lot of power to the departments, and we're not going to rest there. We are going to be bringing more functionality to the departments as well, because that's going to be the main focus in version 20. For example, the company phone book. Now, the company phone book currently is a global entity. Whatever you put into the global phone book, everyone can see. This is why it's not available in the SMB offering, because if someone puts a phone book entry, it will be visible to all the tenants. That's why we have blocked it. but it will be coming to the group level, to the department level. Sorry, that slipped a bit, force of habit. CRM configuration currently is still global as well. That will be coming to the department level as well. So if you've got your sales team using one particular CRM and your IT department using another CRM, they will be able to handle that. Currently, it's only one. Can you let users edit the company phone book? Yes, you can. It is one of the rights that is given to the users. Okay, and also the blacklist will be coming to the group level, to the department level. Sorry, I have let it slip again, to the department level as well. Now, talking about the user roles. In version earlier, basically back in the day in 3CX, we traditionally had just two roles for the users, user and manager. That was it. We then added the receptionist role, and these were customizable. Then we introduced the additional 4 security roles: the system owner, the system admin, the group owner, the group admin. Okay, these are being migrated over to version 20. From the group, we go to department administrator, department owner. But in version 20, the user roles are not customizable. So the user, manager, and receptionist will not be able to be customized. So moving to version 20, whatever you have for the users will be reverting back to what the default is. So if they need to do certain functionalities before you migrate over, you might want to go and give them the specific roles that can do what they need. Okay, that added quite a lot of complexity. There was an almost infinite number of possibilities with all the different customizations, and that added quite a lot of complexity and a lot of things that can go wrong. Okay. I'm not going to go into whether everything is whether it is good or not. That is the functionality that we have, and I'm not going to get into any discussion if it is good or not. That's above my pay grade. Right. So we have given you a sneak preview of the admin console in version 18. It couldn't do all the functionalities. It was a cutback version. In version 20, that will be the only way that you can configure 3CX. Okay. In version 18, the admin console on the users page would take 3 lines for each of the users and only 10 users per page. So it was a bit clunky. We've streamlined things in version 20, so you can basically see 1 line per user now. We've got the name. We can see what role the person has. We can see their email, what extension number they have defined, what department or departments they are assigned, if they are defined any if they are assigned any DIDs, what IP phones they have configured, and what integrations they have. So if they have 2-factor authentication enabled on their extension, if they have integrated with Google, with Microsoft, or are using Teams. That's how computer the only way they could see. Okay. I have a customer with 1 email address, but 4 users. Add aliases plus email addresses are possible. Yeah, why would you just have 1 email address for everyone? It's like, hasn't everyone got an email address? It's I can't compute that. Sorry, I've been in IT for 25 years, and come on, it's like, sorry, I just can't compute that. Just how much of a tight ass is, like, emails are almost free at some point. Just get a Gmail, to be honest. At some point, just put the Gmail as, like, just have it free on Gmail, to be honest. I don't know. It's sorry, I just can't compute that. I've had an email for about 25 years and just I can't compute that. Sorry. Okay, so users within the same department will be able to see each other's presence. Okay. If you are with the necessary roles, you can see the calls of other users within the department as well, do operations. But you can also give rights to a user to other departments as well to see presence. For example, I want to be able to see the IT team. So yep, that is possible. Go into the view and give the presence rights that you need for that. Listen, as far as the handsets are concerned, with the release of version 20, we will be removing the restriction of having an email address on the user. So if you just want to have, for example, a conference phone, you don't need to have an email assigned to it. If you don't have an email assigned, the web services will be disabled for that user. So for example, a conference phone doesn't need to have a web client. So if you don't put an email address there, it will basically block the web client from being connected. If a person has multiple extensions, can that person have one email? They don't need to have multiple extensions. You can have multiple devices on the same extension, to be honest. You don't need to have separate extensions for each person. Just put them all on the same extension. Okay. With version 20, we will be releasing the new Windows Soft Phone as well. Now, the Windows Soft Phone has been available and people love it. It is one of our most popular offerings here at 3CX. We have tried to put it to bed quite a few times over the past few years. Unsuccessfully, people still stick around with it. It is one of our most loved products. So we decided, okay, we're not going to put it to sleep. We're going to evolve it. We're going to give it a nice little makeover, and we're going to redevelop it. So the new Windows Soft Phone is currently in line with the current 3CX app design to be more in line with the mobile applications. The deployment of this will be through the Microsoft Store, like we have with Android and iOS. This allows us to centrally deploy updates if we need to revoke it for whatever reason, going back a year. I'm not going to mention it again. We will be able to do so very easily. There is constant development going on for it. We are currently in beta 6, so there is a lot of development going on in that. Currently, a very recent addition is the headset integration with Jabra. And if you are using Mac, a Mac application will be coming soon as well. No, the PWA is still preferred. It is still around. The Electron app at some point will be blocked and put to sleep because that was a cause of a lot of issues and headaches and whatever. So we are going down the route of the web client, the PWA, this application, and the mobile apps. Yes, currently it is still just for the Jabra. I don't know which other ones we will be integrating. In version 18, we had the Web HIDs, which was a universal driver for all headsets, basically. But there is a native Jabra integration for this one as well. And more development will be coming as well with that. Okay. Now, the Windows Soft Phone, like the previous one, has a proper answer dialog box, not just a notification like the PWA. The PWA essentially is a browser service running. You get a browser notification, you click on it, opens up and answers the phone. This is a lot more performant. It is a native proper answer dialog box. The IP phones and their provisioning. Not many changes to the provisioning. We do realize that people still like to use their phones. In some cases, for example, a factory floor, you do need to have IP phones. Personally, I don't really like them. I'm more of a soft phone kind of person. We introduced a few years ago the RPS provisioning for a provisioning method that shall not be named in this webinar. Okay, this allows a device from anywhere in the world to, as soon as it boots up, get its IP address locally, go to the RPS server to pick up its provisioning URL. So it is a worldwide database infrastructure that the vendors have, the IP phone vendors, for the provisioning and for the management of their devices. Okay, and we piggyback onto that. We then added it for the router phones, where we gave the SBC technology to the vendors to embed into the firmware. And that allows you to basically use the phones with an SBC built in without needing to have an additional device, like a Raspberry Pi. The instigator for that was the shortage of Raspberry Pis that was going around with what happened over the past few years. Okay. And very recently, we added the capability, if you are using Split DNS, to provision local phones as well with the RPS. Okay. So all you basically need to do, put the phone's make and model into the user. We communicate with the RPS server. That keeps the URL there for a period of 2 weeks. We go pick that up when the phone boots up. It has its provisioning URL through the powers of DNS. It knows where to go to the PBX to get its configuration file. When it has the configuration file, it has its SIP credentials and goes and reconnects. Okay. Now, a lot of people were a bit antsy using that because they're sending their data to a third party. They don't want to send their data to a third party. So plug and play provisioning has always been around in 3CX, whether you are in a local network or coming through an SBC. That functionality is still there. Just in the phones page, we have streamlined things. We have an extra button for the plug and play phones. And you're not sending your data to a third-party RPS. You can actually block RPS provisioning in version 20. So there is no RPS being sent. Keep your data local. Same procedure as before. Connect a phone onto the network. You see it on the phones page. Select it, assign it, off you go. I'm actually talking about the remote provisioning method that shall not be named. I don't think we do have any changes to the IP phone support. We do have our preferred vendors. We do have supported and third parties. So whatever could be configured, if you do have something configured, even if there is support for a particular brand going away or a device's end of life, you can still connect it to 3CX. Okay. If it's not in the drop-down box of 3CX, we do have a checkbox that says, I will configure this phone manually. And when you click on OK, it will give you the credentials, the username, the password, what servers you need to connect to, and so on. You just manually copy paste them into the phone. Okay. Won't be supported, but it still works. And the same applies for the provisioning method that shall not be named. If you want to continue using it, you can't configure it anymore in 3.6, but it is still possible. You will need to have custom phone templates for it. Best to move on to a router phone or to an application of 3CX. Can't do troubleshooting within a webinar, but it is possible that your DID might be assigned incorrectly. Now, coming to the topic of APIs, okay? It has been a bit of kickback here at 3CX. We have always been reluctant to release the APIs out into the world, okay? So we have started with the Route Point API. Now, this essentially does some of the functionalities of the CFD, okay? Where you can capture a call, process using C# code, and it does reduce the need for a dedicated CFD project. So if you do have CFD for a complex routing, not a problem, but for simple things like processing, analyzing a caller ID and processing the call, you probably won't need to have the CFD complexity, okay? For example, analyzing the caller ID and assigning a specific agent. I call into my insurance company. They recognize my telephone number, and they know that based on this, my insurance agent is agent A, and I get diverted straight to them. I don't need to select any menu options. I don't need to enter extension numbers. Just basically just call in. I'm talking to the person I need to, okay? IP-decked phones don't have the built-in SBC. So if customers only want a cordless phone is to purchase an SBC IP phone, probably, or even just a Raspberry Pi if you can find one. Probably even just a Raspberry Pi will do the job. It depends on what you need. If you just want to have an IP phone somewhere to be able to be used as well, by all means. The reporting. The reporting is something that has always been considered by us to be our weakest link. Okay, it's not been our strong point. with the rebuilding of the SIP engine from the ground up, we've done a restructuring of the database. We've done an improvement on the call handling, the call logging, and the CDR handling as well. So that allows us to have more accurate reports. So we have given a bit of emphasis to the reports, and the plan is to create more reports and more visual reports. So they are more dashboard-like and not just a box of text like you can see on the screen. Yep. More visual reports. So it will be more dashboard-like, probably integrating with third parties as well. We don't have a time frame for that. It is still under development. Nick has also mentioned that we do need a bit of time for this. So we're just going to get the groundwork basically built up with the final release, and then we're going to start releasing the features with subsequent updates. Right, so the recording archiving. Now, archiving has always been available in 3CX. When you do the recording, it is saved to the disk of the server. You will be able to, you traditionally had the archiving on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. But with version 20, we have the ability to do the archiving immediately. So as soon as the call is completed, it is saved to the disk and then archived automatically. This reduces the disk usage on the server, but it can also reduce the size of the backup as well. Okay, it's very helpful when you are using failover. So if you have a failover integration, okay, we have the active PBX, and over here we have the passive PBX. Okay, this is monitoring this. Okay, so as soon as the active PBX finishes a telephone call, it will archive the recording. If for whatever reason this machine becomes incapacitated, this machine takes over. Through the same configuration, it will be able to see the archive and see the recordings as well. Okay. Now, on the topic of the failover, when you do a scheduled restore, a scheduled backup and a scheduled restore from one machine to another to have the current configuration, a backup could be done on a daily or weekly basis. To make further improvements in version 20, the backups can be done on an hourly basis as well now. So you have the current configuration to the hour. Will it be possible for desk phones to stop call recording currently? Is it possible in the web client? Not in the roadmap for that. Okay. Now, moving on to the transcription. Now, the transcription is done during the archiving process as well. We are using Google's speech API for this version 2. So Google is deprecating API version 1 for the Google transcription. Improvements that are coming with version 2, being able to do the full recording transcription as well. So not just the first minute that we've currently had. If you do have an existing transcription, you will need to reconfigure this. Guys, feature requests, please keep them to a minimum, okay? If there is currently something that is coming, we will be mentioning that in the roadmap, okay? So, oh, for fact's sake, okay? The 20th century has called and wants its technology back. Now, whether we love it or hate it, faxing is still around, probably will outlive IPv6, to be honest. Faxing is still alive, and it's still around, and it's still a headache for most telephony admins. Now, we've always had the ability to receive faxes in 3CX, okay? Now, when you receive the fax in 3CX, we convert it into a PDF and we send it via email. But that PDF would remain on the server. And over the years, you would see everything start to bloat up. We have a cleanup fax option available now, which allows us to reduce the size of the disk usage and also a smaller backup size. Doctors, medical services, government at some point, Mind you, the Aussie government isn't that bad now. I am able to upload documents if I need to as well through the internet. So it is getting there, but other governments, no. Yeah, a lot of people still require that. Now, hopefully, when you set 3CX up, you configure it properly and you will not have any trouble using it, okay? However, we all know that being part of IT does give a lot of issues sometimes, okay? Not just in 3CX, but in general, because you have a lot of factors coming in, users, whatever, and so on. No, the passive server will be, once it takes over, it becomes the active server and it will be able to access the archive. So it will see the recordings down to the minute, basically. So once a telephone call is completed, it will put it into the archive, which the passive server can also see. So you will have all your recordings accessible there. So yeah, after the failover, once it becomes a machine, it's got the configuration, it will be doing the recording, yeah, essentially. Right, so starting with version 18, we started to give a lot of emphasis to the event log, giving it more prominence, putting it frontline and center on the dashboard. It was always there, but we're just giving it a bit more prominence now. We've started to make things a bit more understandable and not just very cryptic, okay? Giving you information. The plan is to be able to make troubleshooting steps available as well. So, okay, this is what you found. This is how you will go and troubleshoot it. So that's the plan, to give you more information. This will make relying on the activity log and even a packet capture less relevant. So if you get a failed call from a provider, it will just show you the error message coming from the provider. So you don't need to go and do a Wireshark capture. It's already there. Okay. Also, with the system health, now sometimes you just want to get basic information for troubleshooting the PBX. For example, the system info. Previously, you'd have to go into the management console, go into the support menu, download support, generate support info. That will be sent via email as a link. You'd basically go and download it, making sure you are logged in as an admin. Open up the zip file, go into the logs folder, go into other logs and whatever, and you see all the information you need, okay? With this one, if you want to get just basic system info, just click on that. That will open up a separate browser tab. You see the information you need right there. One click, okay? The support info package is still available, so don't worry about that. That is still there if you need to do more complex troubleshooting. However, Wireshark will still be there as well. Not in the betas that we have now, but with the final release, it will be out as well. We've added a button for database maintenance to basically do some housekeeping, do some restructuring of the database, just keep everything nice and compact. And the most traditional fix in IT, have you tried turning it off and on again? Yes, we've added a reboot operating system button as well. Okay, so you will be able to reboot if you need to, without having to RDP onto a machine or SSH into it. Now, a game changer for the troubleshooting for the admins is the VoIP quality monitor. Now, this is something that we have added that will make it a lot easier for you to identify where a problem may lie. Okay, now, what is the most troublesome thing to troubleshoot? Intermittent issues, okay? The user has been complaining that over the course of the whole morning of not being able to send and receive calls good, I'm always having problems, and as soon as you go to the desk, it always works. Frustrating, isn't it? Now, with the VoIP quality monitor, you are able to see where the problem lies, okay? So for example, I'm calling from a caller out to my VoIP provider. I can see that between me and the PBX, the quality is good. But from the PBX to the provider, it's shit. Okay, so I can focus my troubleshooting from my SIP trunk configuration all the way through my switch, through my firewall, to the vendor, to the provider. A picnic issue, layer 8 problem, that's it. Well, listen, with the PEBCAC, they've caught onto that. But if you call it a picnic, I'm having a picnic today. Problem in chair, not in computer. Layer 8 problem. They haven't caught onto that yet. Brendan, you're always finding a way to put that provisioning method that shall not be named into the webinar. Right. So now listen, this is technology that's already there. We're just implementing this now. Okay. So we're not reinventing the wheel with this. So we can see that John is calling me. Very short duration. We can see the codec, so we can see if there is any transcoding going on as well. We can see the endpoints that are used, network information, and the statistics of the call. Now it's available now. This is available on version 20, and there is multiple ways that you can trigger it. If you want to trigger the monitoring of an active call, just go to the panel, right-click, monitor quality connection. I can't remember the exact wording of it. If you want to troubleshoot any intermittent issues, a user themselves or you as an admin can go and monitor the quality of that particular extension for a period of 1, 3, 5, or 7 days. So you can give a bit of leeway for that. That will be visible in the dashboard. So once you click on the event log, you'll be able to see the details of that. But you can also see it in the reports under the call log. So you'll see the entry and you'll see the quality report on the side as well. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. If there is bad quality, you'll see it either as orange or red. So you will see it color coded as well. Well, red is only a good color if you're Vodafone or Qantas, which is their company colors. For anything else, yeah, it's bad. Alrighty, so before we move on to the roadmap and our demonstration, let's go and have a look and see our last option our last feature that we're releasing. Two-factor authentication. Now, this has been a highly requested feature. Technically, we have had two-factor authentication through the SSO of Microsoft and Google. So if you were logging on through Microsoft and Google, you would be using their two-factor authentication mechanisms. But if you were connecting through the extension number or email and password, you would not. So we have implemented that. Not reinventing the wheel, no new application required. You will just need to have either your Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. Very simple to configure. This is very helpful if someone is connecting on a public computer. So you can basically have your credentials while logging in, security password, one-time password. You don't need to log in with your Google account onto a public computer. So you don't need to synchronize all your other items, for example, bookmarks, emails, and so on. Alrighty. So what's coming? The roadmap for 3CX. Now, the roadmap is always pretty fluid in 3CX. Sometimes things might come a bit early. We might delay things a bit more. It does all depend on the resources and the development priorities. Okay. So currently in the final release of version 20, since it is a rewriting, not everything will make it in time. And that's why we will be running version 18 in tandem for the time being. So if you are relying on scheduled reports, do not upgrade, wait for update 1. Also, hot desking, being able to use an IP phone on multiple users, not a problem. That will be coming back in update 1. Okay. If that is the case, you will need to hold out to version 18 until then. Other than that, further down from that, the on-premises video conferencing server will be coming as well. It is in the advanced stages of development and testing. So this allows you to deploy a server onto your local network where you host your meetings. Currently, we are connected through a hosted platform of 3CX. So now you're watching the webinar on that. You maintain complete control of your data, so it's not going to a third party. It's not coming down to the 3CX servers, and you maintain the confidentiality. SMS currently is a one-to-one sending. You will be able to have one-to-many as well. There will be improvements coming to the Teams integration. No information currently. We will be releasing more information as it comes. The SMB is currently hosted by 3CX, but we will be allowing a self-hosted SMB as well to allow you to have your own multi-instance server. Now, the inbound rules have been deprecated in 3CX. We have migrated the DIDs over to the destinations, named to the departments, the ring groups, the queues, digital receptionists, the users. Okay. The naming of the DIDs was something that was very helpful to be able to identify which DID was triggered on the screen of your phone. So that will be coming as well. And also, since we have deprecated the inbound rules, the caller ID routing was orphaned. We will be giving it its own setting, its own configuration to still be able to do that. And this will be able to be done in priority to the DID. So the caller ID rules will be processed before the DIDs. Yes, we have improved diversion header support now in version 20. Bridging will be added as well. I think it will probably be making it to the final release, but not the presence. Okay, more information will be coming on that as possible. The multi-instance that we did have back in the day in version 14 wasn't really the best of implementations. That wasn't the most secure offering that we had. So yeah, we've made something a bit more relevant now. So it is more geared towards the departments. That's basically the departments at the end of the day. Yes, one-on-one SMS is currently available. That's correct, with select providers. Can two-factor authentication be required logging from an unrecognized public device, but not the user's usual device or IP? No. It is blanket across the board. On the roadmap, more APIs are coming. So we will be releasing the configuration API as well to allow you to do customizations to the PBX through your own dashboard, through your own automations. We will be using XAPI for this. We'll be documenting the API as well. So you'll be able to configure your users, settings, probably make your own custom dashboard if you are configuring multiple PBXs. The client-side API will be able to give you real-time information on the system about users, calls, and being able to control the calls. Okay, so there is going to be a lot of integration possible with version 20. On the roadmap, more views in the wallboard. Now, the wallboard of 3CX is quite static, and basically just shows calls coming into the queue. So more views will be available. It will be more configurable to show the information that you need as well, and will allow for an outbound wallboard as well. There will be improvements to the switchboard view, namely for the receptionists to be able to make their lives a lot easier because they're answering a great amount of calls on a day-to-day basis. We need to make their lives easier as well. Please send improved WhatsApp to send messages to the client and answer message after 24 hours. That is a limitation of WhatsApp, not 3CX. WhatsApp limits that. Outbound rules, do they need to be set to the department? If they're set to the group and the system fails forward to an external number of thousands, this I'll set up another rule. It does depend. The outbound rule functionality has not changed. So it is on a global level. And you will be able to assign a department to have a particular outbound rule if you need to as well. Okay, so let's go demonstrate that. I'm going to show you basically how to trigger the upgrading from version 18 update 8 to update 9, from update 9 to version 20. Then we'll go into my version 20 that is already up and running, and we'll start configuring things as well. Odoo CRM. We already have a custom CRM integration wizard, which you can use already. Any changes to the on-hold music? No changes yet. At some point, it is slated. We are estimating to put that into the department level as well. Parking, you can have a separate music on hold if you need to. It's already there. It's been around since version 11, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Users and queues cannot be saved before entering 3CX Talk name. Is it possible to switch off? No, it needs to be done. New Windows overlay, set the volume level independent of the main system volume. At some point, I think, yes, there is going to be improvements on that. I think it has been mentioned in the forums, and our development team is already on that. Will version 20 don't have timeframes. Okay, so I'm just going to go share my screen. Let me change the camera around as well. All right, so yes, custom CRM. So 3CX custom CRM. We are 100% Google based. Okay, CRM integration wizard. You can integrate any CRM with 3CX. Let me Google that for you. Bleach the sideburns, dude. That's getting old. That's called getting old. I'm getting old, mate. I'm pushing 50. I'm pushing my 50s, mate. Yeah, I'm no spring chicken anymore. All right, so now I've got a system over here, probably logged me out. Let me just go. Okay, it's still logged in. Okay, so this one, I've got my updates. It is on update 8, and we can see that update 9 is available. Okay, now if you are on 9.20 or 9.23, it is the same thing. Okay, 9.20 and 9.23 will have the capabilities of going to version 20. So all you need to basically do, like you've done any other update in 3CX, download selected, that will log you out. Don't do this during the middle of the day. And that will trigger the update to update 9. Okay. This PBX is already on update 9. I have a hot fix to 9.23. You don't have to do that. Okay, it's not necessary. You can also do it from .20. But now we can see that a version 20 upgrade is available. We can see that it is available. It's not blocking me. So just going to verify that I do have on my demo hosted Nicholas as a system owner. I am logged in with this one, so I can access that. It would allow me to log in very easily to version 20 without any restrictions. Okay, so do the upgrade, read carefully. Well, it's not production ready yet. It is still under release candidate. As and when it is released, you will be able to update your customers. But do your research first. Make sure that everything you require, make sure that you have configured everything. Dot your I's, cross the T's before moving on. Don't just do it blindly. Any reason, Michael, that's touching a bit of a sensitive point here. I'm not going to answer that, to be honest. But yeah, it's it has been mentioned. It has been mentioned even internally as well. So do the upgrade. That will log you out. Start to do the upgrade. So I'm just going to get rid of those. Don't need those anymore. Right, the admin console. Now, I am logged in using my system owner on this one. Okay, so extension 100, the system owner. I have my admin button on the side. Unique email address for the system owner. I can see, however, 2 users are using the same email address, and I can see them flagged as duplicates. So I just need to go change one. And now they're no longer flagged. Okay. My 3 users, John Adams, Brian, and Sam, have assigned IP phones as well. I've got them right here. Okay. If I want to go and enable 2-factor authentication on the users, I can do so very quickly, just by one click. Or if I just want to enable it for one particular user, I can do so. Okay, so it's you can either selectively enable it for users or enable it for everyone. Okay, now coming to our departments, I can see that my office department is my default department. It was my default group, which I renamed to office. The APIs are not available just yet. They sorry. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you talk for 2 hours. Will the user have to set their logins again? No. Basically, when you do enable the two-factor authentication, let me show you how that works now. Let me go to my user. Let me go to Mr. Brian Edwards, and I will reset his password. Okay, I'm just going to go reset my password here. Just to put something that I can log in. So give me a second. Okay, so I'm just going to log in with incognito over here. Okay, so that is hosted 36.school. Brian is what extension number? Sorry, 102. So he's 102. Okay, so you're an administrator, has enforced two-factor authentication. Get your QR code scanner, scan it, put your security code in, off you go. Okay, so that will basically activate it. And from that point on, whenever you try to log in, it will ask for the security code from your authenticator. Okay. You can even rename it beforehand. Even from version 18, under the groups, you can rename the default group. I've had it renamed from donkey's years, to be honest. I've always had it renamed. So just go into there and just rename it whatever you want. Yes, if I now go create a user, so if I go that, you can see the new user will have two-factor authentication enabled by default. So once you enable it by default on all the users, once you go to add one, it will be enabled by default. Okay, so everyone will have that. DIDs can be imported. So if you go to your provider, DID numbers, you can do an import based on a text file. No, this is just for the logging into the PWA or the web client. Okay, sorry. Make sub-departments, groups. No. A department will only be able to have the system extensions and the users, but you won't be able to put a department within a department. Can you show how to provision a new phone? We do demonstrate that in the Academy webinars. APIs are still on the roadmap. We do not have a release date. I do not have any ETAs. Okay, so please don't ask for ETAs. I do not have ETAs. Call recording on by default for new users. Craig, no, we don't have, I don't think we have the capability. We don't have a template for a new extension. So it is based on the defaults of that. You will need to go and enable the recordings for the new users you create. Or you can do it when you're importing them as well. Is two-factor added to the welcome email sent to the users? No. That is randomly generated once they go to log in for the first time. Okay, so once they do create their password, it will ask them to then create that. So it's not necessary for that to be in the welcome email. I don't have it on this one. This is the release candidate 2. The reboot button is on release candidate 3. I can show you where it is, but I'm not going to, because it is the production system that we have. So if I go to my admin, the reboot operating system, sorry, just a new update is available. Okay, restart operating system. So it's just going to be just a button that you have over there. Okay. Yes, you are able to copy the BLF, so you do have the copy extension is still there. Cheeky, Jordan, cheeky. So we basically have our dashboard here. Okay, we've got the event log. Okay, this is one of my call logs from previously. Okay, so that's basically one of the screenshots that I took on that. Okay, going to our departments again. We add the users in. We can see who's the department administrator, who's the user, who's the manager, system owner, and so on. If I go to my office hours, I can define them for each of my departments. You see, these were the global and they were migrated over to the departments themselves. Office holidays as well. You see, they've been migrated over because they're exactly the same. Going to my call handling, I can see my doorbell and my sales queue. I don't have a department assigned to them, so I can just go and say the doorbell is assigned to the office department. Okay, and my sales department to my sales department. Okay, I can see what the DID is assigned to the sales queue. Okay, office hours, holidays, the outbound rules, no functionality has changed on that perspective. You can assign to say, okay, from department sales through the provider. So only the department, the sales department will need to do that. Would each department have their own SIP trunk? Yes, you can have your own SIP trunk for each department if you need to as well. You can limit anything you want to the departments. Now, going to my, give me a second, let me go to my users. We can see that John and Brian are part of office and sales, okay? I did get asked a question about which office hours would they follow. I can go and select, okay? So basically, this user will follow the office hours of this department. Okay, so you basically select which one they want to follow. If a person is just in that one group, you will just basically see that one department. You will not be able to select the other one. WhatsApp, I'm not going to talk about WhatsApp because it's not part of what we're doing today. If there is less reporting available from day one until its roadmap, graphical reports unavailable. Yes, that is true. The graphical reports will be coming further down. Can you show me where to set the call quality? Yes, of course. Now, going to the team tab, I want to monitor John Adams. Okay. Actually, let me do Sam Smith. Just right click, you've got the monitor connection quality. Okay, I want to monitor for a period of 1 day. I can go 3, 5, or 7 days as well. So now Sam Smith is now being monitored. Oh, modified the outbound rule, sorry. Outbound rule did not allow me, sorry, just go outbound rules. Delete that, sorry. What city and state? Okay, so we have established a call. I've just logged into a an IVR basically. Okay, so now going to my dashboard. Okay, excellent call quality from 103 Sam Smith to the VoIP provider. Okay, if I have access to the reports, I can even go to the call log and I can see the connection report there as well. There's an entity, the company I work for as Pulseware installed for monitoring and sending remote commands to shuttle service. Are we still able to do this? Jared, I don't really know. I don't really know the capabilities of that Pulsewave, but if it's working in version 18, I would imagine that it will still work in version 20. Like the plain functionality is not really something that is different. Debian operating system failed to update 3.6 management following. Probably don't have the right hardware. That is correct. Part of two groups, and every group has an outbound. First matching, the outbound rules essentially are the same. As soon as you find a matching outbound rule, you basically go out through that. Okay. Bulk changes to extensions, not yet. It is something that will be coming, being able to edit multiple users. Okay. Currently, you don't have the capability of editing multiple users. The console is right there. That's the admin. The management console is no longer with us. It is dead. Not even, it's not even in the code anymore. It's dead. Oh, the terminal. The terminal. No, that is, don't think we have added that back. No. You would need to log in via SSH if you need to do any troubleshooting to that level. Do you log in with the normal FQDN username equals extension number and password extension? Yeah, the logging in will either be through the extension number and or the email of the user. So if I need to log into a user, it can be done through my extension number, which, by the way, for those that were wondering, you can modify the extension number if you need to as well before adding a user. Okay. No, Leonard, it's not possible to switch that off. You will have to have a talk link for those. You can put something very generic, very random if you need to. It doesn't have to be something that is, it doesn't have to be something that is friendly. You can just put something random if you don't want people using it. Time frames in the rules, in the outbound rules, are not possible. No. Is there any reason we cannot modify? Because it is the main link of the user to the system. It is basically the, think about it like the index ID of the person. You're welcome. The recording settings, of course. The recordings, the settings. I can enable remote archiving. I can select my different destinations. Nothing's changed from that perspective. Just that the archiving schedule is now daily, weekly, monthly, and immediately. So if you do immediately, as soon as the call is finished, right after the call ends, it will archive them over. Screensaver time for the user's telephone. Is that one of the options that we can configure? IP phone, advanced codecs, customize call and ringtone, customize. Is that something, the backlight timeout? Screensaver, I think it was available in the Yealinks. Let me see if I've got the Yealink one. IP phone, backlight timeout, screensaver timeout. Can you customize the wallboard? Currently, no, but that is coming. We talked about that in the roadmap. Recording quota limit. Dashboard recordings, 8 gigabytes. You're welcome. But now, if you think about it now with the archiving instantly, you probably won't even need to have that. You'll probably never hit that limit. It'll always be 0, essentially. Alrighty then. So Azure integration with specific extension number, auto creation for multiple user with operate organizational units. The integration with Microsoft has not changed. So whatever we had in version 18, we'll be having in version 20 as well. Would you recommend putting the system owner in their own group or department, or doesn't it matter? I guess you could. If you don't want others to be able to see them and just be able to configure, you could have it as your partner account. If you're a partner and you want to configure, you just want to have something that people can't dial you. I guess you could. I guess you could. Is red fry in front of normal? Yep. Generic SIP provider means it's not a supported provider. So yes, that will show as red. Martin, that's a very good question. If a client is using the old V16 Windows app, what would happen if they upgrade to version 20? Will it just stop working? No, it won't stop working. It will keep working because it will just soldier on. Okay. Reminds me of the old 1980s ad soldier on with cultural soldier on. Yeah, don't ask me where I remember that. So it will just soldier on. It will just keep working. We don't provide the capabilities of configuring a new one, so we don't provide the configuration file, but if someone already has it, yes, you will be able to use it. I'm not going to talk about the reports. So I'm not really good on the reporting, but because we're not doing troubleshooting here or providing support. How soon will training videos and documentation be available for version 20? We are waiting on the release. Once the release, I estimate about a week or two after that, we'll have the new training up and running. We'll have webinars. I'll be kept busy essentially for the rest of the year. Is there a better way to upgrade Extend 3CX from a higher extension from that? Oh, someone's hit the limitation of the extensions. No, there isn't. You will basically have to set everything up from scratch. Okay. The way that you could do that, if you need to, you'll basically have to take a backup. You'll have to export, sorry, not backup. You'll have to export your extensions, do the modification to the extension numbers, set everything up again from scratch, import your extensions, and then reconfigure your queues, ring groups, and everything else. Yeah. AI integrations will be coming in the future. We'll have more information on that. Anyway, everyone, it is time to go. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy days today to watch our webinar. I do hope that version 20 has got you excited as it has got us. We're very excited as well. Looking forward to the final release as well. Please be on the lookout for the new Academy webinars towards the later end of the quarter as well. So hopefully see you soon as well. Be good wherever you are. If you don't want to be good at it. See you soon. Bye-bye. The provisioning method phones that shall not be named will still continue to work. You will need to customize the template in order for them to keep working properly. So you will need a custom template. Bye, everyone.